Thanks a lot, guys. Will you welcome back Eric Swanson to Evansville?
Thanks, Ross. How many were here last time when I was here back in September? How many are brand new? Okay. Okay, so we'll do a little bit of review. But I am delighted to be back here in Evansville. We had great weather being here. I left 4 inches of snow in Colorado. But I just want to start with a little picture. This is from the 1896 Olympics. And this is the finals of the 100-yard dash. And you see everybody has their stance. They're all starting, from the standing position except for one guy. And he's in the stance, the crouch stance that they use today. What do you think it felt like to be first? He's down there on all fours. People are mocking him like, is he going to run like you're going to gallop this race? What's a man doing on all fours run this race? But by the end of when they crossed the finish line, he finished first. Ran in 12 seconds and was proclaimed the world's fastest man. And what happens is sometimes to be able to think differently, it feels very, very awkward. It feels like, people, you're crazy. What are you doing? What are you thinking? And I kind of like to think of that Steve Jobs quote, but it's the crazy ones that really change the world. And so this is a conversation about sort of what it means to be first, what it means to think differently about the work of God in our city, the work of God in your church. We set the kind of foundation last time I was here talking about what city transformation was, and I'll just go 3 slides to review. But city transformation is the integration of the good news and good deeds of Jesus that results in both spiritual and societal transformation. Hard to argue with that. What spiritual transformation occurs when an increasing number of people are loving the Lord their God with all their heart, their soul, their mind, and strength. And societal transformation occurs when an increasing number of people are loving their neighbor as themselves. Now, if that sounds familiar, where does that come from? Matthew 22, yeah. So what we're talking about is not something that's peripheral to what you're doing in your churches, but it's very core of what Jesus says the most important thing is helping people, is us loving God and us loving our neighbor and helping other people do the same. So we'll say that spiritual transformation it's maybe be expressed when Jesus talked to his city. He said, Jerusalem, Jerusalem, how often I wanted to gather you together as a hen gathers her brood. And in other words, there's a reconciliation of bringing people to Jesus in the city. Then societal transformation occurring when, I think when God has a chance to build a city, it talks about in Isaiah 65, when he builds a new Jerusalem, what does that city look like? And it says a place where kids don't die. It says that people live long years. It says that people are satisfied with the work of their hand. There's jobs. It says that people build houses and live in them and plant crops and eat their food. There's food and there's housing. There's an expectation that the children will have a brighter future than their parents. And it's kind of like, and it's an agenda that goes broader than what the church can bring, but where many, many other partners in the city can bring it. So we'll say that city transformation occurs when the whole church takes the whole gospel to the whole person in the whole city. And the reason we say that is 4 things. The whole church is not going to include every church, but can't exclude any church. The whole gospel coming in word and deed to the whole person, body, soul, and spirit. And then to the whole city, every sector, public, private, social, every domain. And just the channels of cultural influence, those 7 things that some of you are familiar with. And each of those things is very, very important. And what happens is it has to create a space big enough where everybody can find themselves a place in that story. In other words, if it's so broad that this is just about evangelism, you say, I believe in evangelism, but that's not my gift. I was talking to a person earlier, and they said one of the things they're passionate about is preschool education and kindergarten readiness. Because I talk a lot about 3rd grade reading levels, but even pushing it back further, what a young child knows when they enter kindergarten seems to be the most determinative thing. And so if we don't have the whole person, if we can't, and if we believe that everything that's broken in our world because of sin, that God has put into the heart of somebody to be part of that solution, then how can we tap what's inside them? So it's because everybody wants to make a difference, not just believers, but all unbelievers. God says that, in Ecclesiastes says that God has put eternity in people's hearts. And there's something there that nobody likes to think that they lived their life in vain without making a difference in anybody else's life.